Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the fourth episode of the In Off the Post podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Bevan, and I'm here with the usual suspects, Ross Dawson.
Hello.
And Liam Thomas.
What's up?
And we've got a special guest today, James Thomas of Bulls News.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. And on today's show, has Klopp flopped? After 2 years in charge, has he met his own expectations? The best player outside the top six, and where should they go to? The worst transfer rumour ever, and we talk to a proper football fan about proper grassroots football. But first, I think we should start with the Premier League results, as we tend to.
Yes, we should. Premier League was back after a very long international break for us Welsh fans, I think we can all say.
Indeed.
Very grateful to see league football back. So I'll get straight into the results. So first up, we've got Burnley 1, West Ham 1, Southampton 2, Newcastle 2, Brighton 1, Everton 1, Leicester, West Brom also 1-1 last night's Monday Night Football, Swansea 2, Huddersfield 0, interesting, and also Spurs picking up their first win at Wembley this season in a 1-0 win against Bournemouth.
Well, where's the best place to start? I think probably with the worst game, although it was billed as the best. Man United and Liverpool drawing 0-0 at Anfield.
I don't think I even got to it on Match of the Day. It was that far down.
It was on last, I'll put it that way. But I'll take the reins on this one because I've got a lot to say about this game.
Please do.
Obviously, United and Liverpool 0-0 draw at Anfield. No main talking points about this game. It was very boring. As I said, it was last on Match of the Day. Going into the game, as the starting lineups came out, we saw that both sides were without many key players. Liverpool obviously without Lallana, Mane and Klein. Well, Klein's still out with an injury obviously, and United were also without Pogba, Fellaini and Eric Bailly. There's a very lively home crowd at Liverpool, wasn't there? Because obviously it was the first game with the launch of the new Kenny Dalglish stand. He was there in attendance, and the crowd were well up for it.
Unfortunately, the players weren't.
No, the players weren't. So United's starting 11, even though many of us saw the name of Ashley Young on the starting 11, we all instantly assumed that Mourinho was going for a 5 at the back and it was going to be a dull draw and he was going to park the bus and stuff like that. But that turned out to not necessarily be the case.
Started on the wing, didn't he?
Ashley Young did start on the right wing. We did adopt a 4 at the back, just a standard formation. But whenever you do start Ashley Young on the wing, you're going to plan on playing a defensive style of football anyway. But it wasn't necessarily parking the bus as much. Also, Lindelof not getting a start at all. He seems to only be playing in European matches. He's not getting a look into the league.
He came on the last couple of minutes, though, didn't he? Right at the end.
I think so.
For
Yeah,
his first league appearance.
He's been very poor in terms of form as well in the European games so far this season. So I think that he's not necessarily missed in the starting 11. He's still got to get used to English football because I'm sure the transition from the Portuguese league into the English league is very difficult. And I think that Bailly and Phil Jones have formed a decent partnership so far this season. But I'm still waiting for Marcus Rojo to get back.
Wasn't Lindelof brought in though to kind of form a partnership with Bailly because he's a good on the ball centre back?
A lot of people were comparing it to the Vidic and Rio Ferdinand sort of partnership. So Lindelof would come in and be the Vidic, who's like the centre back who like holds the fort, so to speak, and then Eric Bailly would be like the Rio Ferdinand who go out and win the ball, and he's a very mobile defender. Yeah. Which he already is. Yeah. Eric Bailly's a fantastic defender. I rate him really highly.
Well, you sort of need a new type of defender now as opposed to Vidic with the new systems that have come in over the years. Yeah. It's sort of hard to compare them to those players because of how much the new system demands of a defender.
But even last season, Eric Bailly started some games at right back when in his first couple of games at United, he was starting at right back, and that just shows like the amount of pace he has, the quality that he has on the ball. He's a great defender. But so there was a few chances in the game, most notably the Joel Matip chance that David De Gea saved with his left foot. It was a good save, wasn't it?
I mean, yeah, but I think people are getting far too carried away thinking that one save alone makes him the best goalkeeper in the world.
Well, Jamie Carragher thinks so.
Great.
I mean, coming from like obviously a Liverpool legend, and It was a dull draw. The fact that he still considers a Man United player to be the best in their position in the world, I think.
He's probably the best fit goalkeeper in the
it
world,
talks-
because in terms of goalkeepers, Neuer's injured.
Oh, yeah,
at
I
the
still
moment.
think Manuel Neuer is the best in the world, but he has been injured for quite a long time, and I do think that David De Gea is a very close second. Because if you have a look at the defences that Manuel Neuer has had in front of him since he's joined Bayern Munich, like the defence that he has in front of him now is a bit ridiculous, or last season even more so, because you got last season especially you had Lam, Hummels, Boateng, and obviously Alaba. The only difference this year is that Kimmich is coming ahead of Lam, who's obviously retired. But anyway, we won't get into a debate about the best goalkeeper in the world. That's
a topic for another day.
that's
for
a topic
sure.
for another show
We're
for sure.
listing them off.
But yeah, so Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football before the Leicester and West Brom game, he was praising David De Gea, which I thought spoke a lot about the game that he had. But
This was definitely a game that, since we're going to be talking about Jurgen Klopp in a minute, his teams would have won once upon a time. Even Liverpool before have won games like this. I'm not saying Mourinho came out just to defend, although I do think he was happy to, come with a point and leave with a point.
I think he would have been happy with the result, but I don't necessarily think the style of football we played was as bad as, say, the likes of Chelsea last season, where we completely parked the bus. Because I remember that game where it was a 5 at the back, and you just had Herrera following Hazard around for the whole game. That was a very dull and boring football to watch, and it was as well on Saturday against Liverpool. But defensively, I think we were very comfortable. Not necessarily because parking the bus implies that you're sort of clinging on for like the whole 90 minutes. But I thought we were comfortable in defence. It was just the attacking opportunities that were there. I think a lot of our star attacking players did go missing, and they had very poor games, especially Mkhitaryan, especially Lukaku. Obviously, I thought
he was awful.
Martial in his defensive positioning, he wasn't bombing into the box when a break was on, like going down the wing and stuff like that. He was quite very passive with his defensive play. He didn't seem as eager to get into the box.
Do you think that's perhaps why he doesn't start every game then? Do you think Mourinho's identified that within him? It was definitely a problem with Hazard before. I think a few managers raised
The thing that I don't know about that though is that whether Mourinho's purposely told Martial to hang back a little bit, or it's just his work rates, then I'm not too sure. Because when he was on the ball, like the build-up play to that big Lukaku chance, it was a great run and it was a great build-up play. And I do think that's what he does bring to the team.
I think he's been told to do it, because Martial loves getting in the box. The best goals I've seen him score is where he's taken the ball into the box and just, dribble around players, made them look amateur. I think he did it against Liverpool last year at Old Trafford, didn't he?
Martial's attacking prowess is probably the best in our side at the moment. I think Mkhitaryan's the creator, and he's easily in the top 5 players in our team. But in terms of players that will bomb at a defence, run into the box and slot a goal maybe into the bottom corner, Martial is definitely the best in our squad for that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. And Lukaku's touch and the proof that he's not a complete player really showed off, I thought, against Liverpool.
His hold at play was quite poor against Liverpool as well, I thought. But he didn't have as many players running around him that could help him make chances, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like he's the sort of striker that you hoof the ball up to on the edge of the box. He holds up play and waits for players to run in behind him.
Yeah.
But not many players were doing that yesterday.
No, they were told to kind of hang back.
Saturday, but
yeah.
In terms of the result, though, would you agree with that tweet you showed me earlier in the week? Do you remember the one on? I think it was Sporf, to do with you would rather win attractively or not win at all, essentially.
Well, attractive football doesn't win you league titles. Results win you league titles, and when you think that a 0-0 draw against Liverpool at Anfield, would you take that as a result in the long term? I would.
Possibly, but if that result was to come towards the end of the season, you'd probably say that was 2 points that you lost, essentially.
But
if you win the league,
it could have been 3 points that we lost easily.
If you win the league by 1 point, I guarantee you the same Man United fan will be pointing to that game and going, "That's the game. See, we ground out the result there, and then we managed to get the point, and it won us the league."
I hope.
I guarantee you.
Because don't get me wrong, I'm frustrated that we're playing this style of football. Like, I don't see why we can't implement our style of football that we've played for the whole league into big like top 6 matches, because obviously we've scored. Hang on, I've got the stats here. Yeah, people are arguing that we're promoting a boring style of football, even though we've scored 4 goals in 4 games out of our 7 before that game in the season, which is a bit ridiculous, to be honest. But don't get me wrong, I am a bit disappointed that we don't implement the same playing style against the big teams, because it really doesn't do our playing style any justice that we can't do it against big teams. I think it's great having 4-0 wins against the likes of Everton or someone like that, but unless you get a 4-0 win against a big team, no one's going to take you seriously.
It's disappointing because if we were to play them, if Arsenal were to play them, it seems to be a case of who can outscore the other. I know obviously recently they thrashed us, but you're telling me that Man United team can't outscore them. That's where the Liverpool could even score past your defence.
That's just poor. That's just poor form.
Yeah.
That United squad, the playing style. I say that no players are making runs, but I think that was down to the individual players and not necessarily the tactics, because otherwise he would have started with a back 5 instead of a back 4. I do think it was just a very bad day in terms of United's attack, which has been quite rare so far in this season. I made a note of a stat just now that Liverpool have not scored a goal so far this season past the 77th minute, and 10 of United's goals so far this season have come in the last 10 minutes. So if that's the head that Mourinho had on going into the game, where like if we're going to try and hold Klopp,
be a clever approach,
hold the fort for the first 75 to 80 minutes until the team's really worn down, and then hit them with like bringing on Rashford, bringing on Lingard, something like that. So I do get it if he tried to play that style of football, and I would be happy if that's what he went for. But it's just the players in attack that let us down, really.
It's not a bad shout at all, in fairness. Those stats really speak for themselves. But another team did play, although it is arguable. Liverpool were not the best.
Don't give Liverpool any credit. They played really poorly.
They did. And I'm not going to. I thought Coutinho went completely missing. I thought Salah...
Salah was the bright spark in their attack.
He was the only player I thought
who seemed to create chances as much as others.
But then there was that moment right after that amazing save from De Gea, from the Emre Can shot, and it bounced out to Salah.
Yeah.
But he absolutely should have let that go, because Coutinho could have shot first time, and Salah then controlled it, dribbled around a bit, and had a poor shot. It went wide. So I absolutely thought that it was in that moment where they could have scored. Salah was at fault for them not scoring.
He's not afraid to shoot, though. I believe he's the second. He's taken about 28 shots. I think he's the second highest in the Premier League. So
he's getting chances, isn't he? Though he's running into the box and getting those chances. And I'm not going to complain when a striker is in confident form, because you need your strikers to be confident. But absolutely, he should have let that ball go for Coutinho.
But in terms of the tactics that Jurgen Klopp implemented, he didn't take any risks whatsoever. I was watching some of the build-up to Monday Night Football last night, and Sean Custis from the Suns was rightly saying that there was no risk taken on Liverpool's behalf, even though Mourinho invited Klopp to take risks. Like all the substitutions that Klopp made towards the end of the games, they were like for like substitutions. So you had Coutinho, Firmino and Salah coming off for Oxlade-Chamberlain, Sturridge and Solanke. I mean, how do you expect them to take a game by the reins and just completely flip it on its head? I don't get how you think that those are some inspirational substitutions that are going to win you the game. Why not take Emre Can off and then bring Sturridge on or something like that? If you're going to go for the goal.
They're trying to play Firmino as a out and out striker, and I don't see him as that.
They did change his number to number 9. I
just don't see him as that. I think if they needed him to, he could do a job when Coutinho's injured. For some reason, they always seem to be injured around the same time. But you've got Solanke and you've got Sturridge. Now we've all seen Sturridge play this season. He's been awful. He's been absolutely awful.
Well, I'd argue for the last couple of seasons, but
of course, yeah. But this season he's looked particularly bad, especially since he's lost a lot of his pace. And Solanke is still young. I think he's only 21. He's a lot of pressure to put on a young kid. Although he's got all the attributes for a decent striker. So you should still have. I mean, I know it's unrealistic, but he didn't know him at Dortmund. You know, Liverpool need a player like someone like Aubameyang. You know, someone with an abundance of pace to play off the two wingers who have also got an abundance of pace.
I think the main thing that's keeping Firmino in that number 9 spot is the strength of the wingers around him, because all of the wingers that Liverpool have that get into the starting 11, so your Sadio Mane, your Mo Salah, your Coutinho, they're all great goal-scoring wingers.
Yeah.
And they're great playmakers as well.
But I see him put a load of balls in the box. When you've got Firmino playing, I know he scored a header and so has Salah, but you're surely not going to beat a team like Stoke when you're playing, you know, those kind of players and putting balls in the box, or West Brom, for example. It's just not going to happen. You know, they need to find more tactics. The Jurgen pressing that he's been so, well known for seems to have died a death in a way. They're not pushing teams, and if they had pushed Man United, I think they would have won.
I think that also reflects on the confidence within their defense. I mean, I don't think I'd want to be high pressing when teams are going to be hitting that defense.
It's hands down the worst defense in the top 6.
Yeah,
by quite a stretch, I believe.
I think we rival it maybe on the off day.
when your defense is on, when Arsenal's defense is on form, is quite good. But I just wanted to bring back to the point of Jurgen Klopp not taking any risks. Mourinho, in his post-match interview with the BBC on Match of the Day, he was quoting Mourinho: "I was waiting for them to make an offensive change, maybe Chan or Wijnaldum for Sturridge, but he never did. He didn't try anything. He was afraid of our counter-attack, and that says a lot when the counter-attack of United was so poor on Saturday night, or Saturday afternoon. Sorry."
It does, and also it's sort of the opposite of, you know, fire against fire. Just it was, you know, they were scared of your attack, so they were poor obviously attacking, but they were willing to just play defensively as well.
In terms of tactics, Mourinho won the game hands down, because he did.
Sure.
I hope this is going to be the approach that he only implements in away games at the Big 6. Because if he goes, like, say if we go to Liverpool, we pick up a point, a hard fought point, but it was very poor from Liverpool's perspective, and then we take them to Old Trafford and we thrash them 3 or 4-0, then 4 points from your rivals across 2 games in the season, that's a good return. But I just think as long as he only keeps these tactics in terms of like the away games against the Big 6, I think that would be ideal, basically. But I think the last week as well, including the start in the lineup, has definitely cemented, I think, the death of Luke Shaw, because I've seen people talking on Twitter about him playing for the under-23s and getting absolutely slapped about by some of the teams that he's coming against, and he just looks really uninspired, really lazy, and he's not even getting a look in as to on the bench. He's literally just staying with the under-23s, which is really tragic, because I thought Luke Shaw had the potential to be a quality player, but I think
maybe sympathise with him on a level.
He did pick up a poor injury.
So well, so.
He was really good as well before. Well, we've talked about it before.
He was reaching the peak, the time where he was about to come good, and then did a double leg break, and that was it.
Yeah.
But I do think his attitude does have an element, does play a part in it a bit. But anyway, this leads us nicely into our next topic actually, we've got some results to go through again, sorry. So we'll start off with Crystal Palace 2, Swansea 1. Palace scoring their first goal of the season, which turned into their first 2 goals of the season, and the first being the first in 731 minutes. Obviously, a returning Wilfred Zaha for Palace played a huge role in that game. But what does this mean for Chelsea? What does this result mean for Chelsea?
It was another injury for them. I think it was Moses went off, so that's a few they've got on the injury list now. They're definitely missing Morata. I mean, Batshuayi, his attacking positioning is pretty poor. Didn't really give them anything up front. So I think he was pretty angry when he was brought off in, I think it was the 60th minute. But, I mean, if you're not going to offer anything up front, then you can't really blame Conte for that.
He's a good impact player, isn't he? He's the one you kind of stick on at the 80th minute, and he runs at tired defences. I talked about Renato Sanchez last week in the same kind of vein, and I do feel that way about Batshuayi. Also, he wins Twitter. So
It's
that's a point in his
up there
favour.
with him and Benjamin Mendy from Man City, I think.
Well, for sure. Well, I think didn't Benjamin Mendy swear at Bernardo Silva in Portuguese on Twitter earlier? That was just brilliant. That's just great banter. Anyway, I don't think that it really says too much about Chelsea or Palace, to be fair. Although I wouldn't have predicted this, it's kind of now in hindsight you couldn't have seen it happen because Chelsea's injuries right across the team, every position almost, they're really struggling. But centre mid especially, I think I saw a graph that was like more than 10 players in the summer they've sold or loaned out, and they're all centre mids. Loftus-Cheek to Palace is one of them, and so is Nathaniel Chalobah. I think both of them would do a decent job, if not a good job in that team. Either way.
I mean, Chelsea are bringing the likes of Musonda and stuff off the bench against these teams, so I don't see why they couldn't keep hold of these players and then bring them on as well, just to give them a bit of experience.
Well, we did talk about it before, but their recruitment in the summer was so poor, so
Chelsea's,
poor.
yeah.
And I think Palace they didn't play attractive football; they just played the right football. Roy Hodgson did shape them up really, really well. Wilfred Zaha came on and scored. I've got my opinions about him, but oh god, why couldn't you do that for Cardiff anyway? He was awful, and we were giving him the chance to reignite his career. And yeah, I mean he hasn't. I think he hasn't played a game this season. That was probably his first.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it was almost written in the stars he was going to score the winner, and the scrappiest goal in the world for Johan Cabaye to score as well.
Yeah.
So I mean,
poor goal.
it was just going to happen. It was just meant to be. I don't think it really says too much about them. They'll both, Palace will lose next week. I don't know who they're playing, and Chelsea will win next week. I don't know who they're playing.
Stay up though. Danny Murphy said on Match of the Day that there's no chance they'll go down. I mean,
with that side.
I know.
No, I'm going to sort of agree with him, because that side that the Crystal Palace have got, that's easily a top 13, top 12 side, maybe pushing top 10, based on paper, purely on paper.
I agree with that.
And at the moment, they're only 1 point off 19th. They've got 3 points, obviously with the win yesterday, and they're only behind Bournemouth by 1 point.
I think the only thing
Bournemouth have had a bad season, but Leicester City also dropping points against West Brom. If they win their next game or next couple of games and Leicester City slip up, then they could easily creep out of the bottom.
I think the only thing
that
will keep Palace up is potentially teams around them not playing well, because Bournemouth, they've only got 1 point more than Palace, and we're not talking about them as if they're in a bit of a crisis, but they are. They're not scoring goals. Huddersfield, their bubble might burst at some point, although I wouldn't like it. So I like David Wagner. Brighton as well.
You think Burnley's bubble's going to burst? They're sitting in 7th place.
No, I don't. I think the football, they're playing slightly better football than they did last year, and it's slightly better.
Brighton maybe. Can you see Brighton going back down?
You see Burnley. I'm going to go back to Burnley. Sorry. The teams that they've played and the position they're in, they've taken points off some big teams. I think Spurs, Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool. They are doing really, really well. Brighton I can see slipping up because, again, I don't think they recruited particularly well, although Gross looks like a good player. I think he created the most chances out of any player in the Bundesliga over the last 3 seasons. They got him for 2 million, so great signing. Anthony Knockhart's a good player as well, but I just can't see them, if they play the way they played in the Championship last season, like they have been so far, the first few games of this Premier League season, I can't see them staying up, because they bottle it right at the end of the season every time.
So at this current point, who's your bottom 3 for the end of the season?
I hate to say it, but at this rate, Bournemouth, just simply not good enough. I mean, that approach they took when they came up from the Championship, that attacking football, seems to be finally coming back to bite them now.
It's just not that many. There's not that many big names in the team as well, apart from the attackers.
You've Jermaine Defoe,
you've got Jordan King as well, but
Palace, Bournemouth, and Swansea. They're my 3.
Swansea?
Yeah, I think Swansea.
Okay.
I mean, they've only won 1 game, and we're acting like they've won. Not you lot, but the pundits are acting like they've done a madness, but all they did was beat Huddersfield at home. It's not a big deal.
No, I'm going to say Crystal Palace are not going to be in the bottom 3, just because I think there's too much quality in their side. I think it's going to be Bournemouth for sure, because certainly if they keep continuing this form, but I think there's not enough sparks in that team to make it tick to stay up. But also Brighton, yeah, maybe Huddersfield. Yeah, there's a lot of names that are being thrown around at the moment, because you've got 15th, 16th, and 17th is West Ham, Everton, Stoke City, and I frankly can't see any of those teams going down.
No.
Well, West Ham have sort of floated just above the relegation zone for the last couple of seasons, but that's nowhere near as good as West Ham need to be. So I don't know what's going. There's a crisis at West Ham that I'm sure we've talked enough about.
We have, but I mean the Premier League is looking nice and open again, and it's nice to see. In fairness.
Yeah, Watford doing well, sitting in 4th place, which leads us into our next game. Watford 2, Arsenal 1. Liam.
Oh dear.
Shall I leave and just let him just do this whole
Please.
game by himself, because I think he could.
I mean, no Ramsey or Sanchez. Sanchez, a mental break or something they conjured up from
mental break.
thin air. Don't know what it was. There was another player in the team, I believe it was El Neni, who played when Sanchez played as well. Obviously didn't need a mental break. Don't know what it is with these high class players, seem to demand these breaks. I mean, they outshot us, but we had more on target, and it spoke volumes. I mean, the Ozil chance, seen a lot of Arsenal fans debating it. I mean, he didn't bring a world-class save out of Gomez, so
it was a poor effort.
He's just come back, so whether you can use that as an excuse or not, you expect him to put that in the back of the net.
If I'm not mistaken, that Ozil shot led to the penalty.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He missed the chance, and then they went straight down the other end, and it wasn't a penalty, but that doesn't matter.
He was so lazy after he made that
Which
shot
we
as
know
well.
he is.
He's never tracking back.
There's no point. He put a big Facebook post up because he'd been with us for 2 or 3 years. Can't remember how long it is now. It's been too long anyway. And
3, I think.
Yeah, saying that people criticise his work ethic. Well, you can't blame them. You're not going to see him in the box the other end after he's had an attacking opportunity, because he won't work. He won't go back there.
You've absolutely butchered a shot, and the goalkeeper saved it. And when he lobs it out for a counter attack, you're not chasing down the ball, even though there's acres of space behind you.
The annoying thing is, obviously, he brought Lacazette off again, and I think the 60th minute.
I was going to talk to you about that.
If he leaves him on the field, I guarantee you he's that player going through on goal, and Lacazette will score that any day of the week.
Iwobi starting as well.
I know. Looked promising.
I know. He had a good,
really good tournament.
Recent game for Nigeria.
The qualifiers.
Yeah, obviously.
But yeah, and he brought that form into the game. He had a great chance. Gomez with an absolute worldie of a save. No longer a shadow of what he used to be at Tottenham.
No,
Used to love watching him play for Tottenham. But yeah, brought a world-class save from him. He couldn't believe that he scored, but he saved it. But I mean, why can't Giroud and Lacazette play at the same time? There seems to be this sort of stigma, even sometimes with the French team.
Well, if you're not going to start Sanchez, you may as well chuck Lacazette on as well.
Yeah, he played
or Giroud on.
He played Welbeck, who was known to have a bit of a muscle strain, and then, long behold, he came off injured with something to do with one of his muscles. You take your pick at this point. But really good play from credit to Richarlison for Watford. His direct play really hurt us. I mean, why wouldn't you play direct against our defence?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, right, he took a tumble, and I feel bad.
It's not a penalty, but
it's not a penalty.
That shouldn't allow them back into the game.
Forgetting all that, how good has he been? Like this season, he's been fantastic.
Yeah, like I said to you before, obviously the only performance where he sort of went missing was when they got, absolutely bashed around by Man City 6-0, which you can't really blame him for. No. But other than that, really positive from him.
I think after watching the highlights, Watford probably deserved it. I mean, cleverly, nearly missed that shot.
We were rewatching that game earlier. And
yeah. Oh gosh, he was scraped
so
the top
nearly
of the crossbar.
so nearly skied that.
Yeah,
but it is what it is, and I think
it's more points dropped.
Arsenal, that's a game you should be winning. Just a game you should be winning.
That game just screamed out the problems with Arsene Wenger, because you've got the players on the pitch that can do the job, but the decisions he made, similar to Klopp actually, the tactical decisions that he made to sort of inspire another wave of attack for Arsenal to secure 3 points, it just wasn't there.
It just becomes annoying because you can you're doubtful before the game is even kicked off. You look at that team sheet.
Like Lacazette should be playing 90 minutes every game.
Yeah.
In my books.
Yeah, I mean,
he's only got, I think, 2 goals so far this season, and that's because he's been brought off towards.
Yeah, he doesn't
Well, he's
get
a
the
record
chance.
signing. You'd think that he'd be starting every game ahead of, I don't know, Sanchez didn't play, but Sanchez has been playing ahead of him. But he's got 6 months
You
left
want
on
your
his contract in
striker
January.
to be on the highest confidence, and how can a player be like that when he's sat on the bench? Or a classic that we do at Arsenal is moving them onto the wing. You sign these players to score you goals. There's no reason why you can't score on the wing, but you want to be playing in that forward position.
If you start in a front 3 with a 3 at the back, it doesn't necessarily have to be wingers coming off of them. You can have like Özil behind Giroud and Lacazette. That works as well. Just a standard like 3-4 or like 3-4-1-2 or 3-5-2 or something like that. That could work.
It's just ridiculous at the moment, but again, nothing new. So my little rant over.
I think the next game we need to talk about is Man City.
We need to talk about that because we need to just gush about how good they've been.
I want to ask you something quickly though. The record amount of goals by a team scored was Chelsea in the 2009-10 season, 103 goals.
Okay.
After 8 games, they have 29.
Oh my God, that's unbelievable.
Do you reckon they can beat it or not?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that Chelsea team that year was unbelievable. I think that was probably the year Drogba, sorry, got his 20 goal a season, which he only did once, and now he's regarded as a Premier League great because of it. He's not.
Hot take.
Hot take. I mean, how good are Man City? And there is no other answer than unbelievable.
I'm gonna bite my tongue because I have a thing with Premier League teams. They always have like good runs of form where they're playing world-class football, but that only lasts for say 10 games, and then they absolutely bottle it.
But they've taken it into every competition. They battered Feyenoord.
If come end of November, beginning of December, City is still at top and they've still been smacking teams with these results, I'm going to say, yeah, hands down, say you're going to win the league.
I think it's obviously because of how many goals they win by. I think it is, where is it? It's their 3rd successive home game where they've won by 5 goals or more, which is just ridiculous.
I mean, when you look at how successful even United's beginning to the season have been, it's nothing compared to City's. Because you think United, 8 games unbeaten, a bit different to the unbeaten streak of last season, which was the most pointless unbeaten streak ever.
That was brilliant.
But, no, 17
wins. Games unbeaten, didn't even move a place. I think he went down actually. I've got some stats to throw you away though about Man City. Man City are the only team to have scored 5 or more goals in a single game in a Premier League in the Premier League this season, and they've done it 4 times. It's crazy. The number of goals, the output, and it's coming from all over the place, which goes by this stat that only John Stones, Ederson, and Otamendi didn't contribute to a goal against Stoke on the weekend. 2 defenders and a goalkeeper.
Which is why when you said before, Ross, that you wouldn't consider like Jesus one of the top 5 players, it's so hard for a player to shine individually in that team because collectively they're such a good unit going forward.
And bear in mind, Aguero didn't play.
No.
And we talk about him as one of the best 5 players.
Frankly, I don't think Man City need him anymore.
Ooh, I don't know. His finishing is unbelievable. Like, he will finish any chance he gets.
Yeah, but you've got... Do you really want an individual with that much like that? Because I know Aguero likes to take games and like turn them on their head, like individual performances, if that makes sense. Like he likes to personally turn a game on its head and grab it by the throat, basically. And I think that City work together much nicer when they're all working together. And I think that works better with Gabriel Jesus.
I'm inclined to agree with you, but then also what happens when Gabriel Jesus hits a poor run of form? We haven't actually seen him do that yet because he's only been in the Premier League for 8 months.
Well, and the chances he gets as well.
It's coming up to a year because he did join in January. So
10 months.
He did have a promising end to last season as well. So I don't think this is a fluke. I do think Gabriel Jesus is a good player.
Well, he has got unsustainable form. I think there was some stat throwing around that he had 14 shots on target and scored 12 goals. Iheanacho-esque, kind of unsustainable.
Yeah, but look what Iheanacho's doing now.
Nothing. I think they should have kept Iheanacho. I think he would have just been a good player in case Jesus did hit a poor patch.
Okay.
Just gloss over that.
Obviously, when Stoke scored their 2 goals, because at one point in the game it was actually 3-2
It looked
to
like
City.
it was going to be a FIFA game
It did. When that second Stoke goal went in, everyone was just like, "Oh, hold
Both
on
the
a
goals
sec."
were sort of.
Both the goals were absolute trash, though.
Well,
it was a deflection
one
and
way
an
to
own
put
goal.
it.
And then say, well, oh, okay, then we're just banging another 4.
The audacity of Mame Biram Diouf to claim that second goal as
To
well.
header it towards the corner flag.
He heads it, and I'm actually doing the motion, and it bounces off the top of his forehead and hits Kyle Walker and goes in, and he's like, yeah, definitely.
Picks
all
the
me,
ball
man.
up, third
all
goal
me.
coming soon.
I'm about to get my hat trick, boys. No.
But obviously, a lot of their attacking success, we can't go without mentioning him. He was brought off, funny enough, in the game. De Bruyne, of course. I mean, since his debut in the Premier League, 32 assists.
It was an absolute masterclass yesterday.
Oh,
though.
He's
I know
so good.
he didn't necessarily have many goals or assists. He had 2 assists but no goals. But his passing and his build-up play is just unreal.
And that
Yeah.
Sterling
Second
goal
to
as
none.
well, where they basically built it from the goalkeeper, and it ended with that De Bruyne pass to Sané, and oh my god, he didn't get the assist for that because obviously Sané squared it to Sterling, but he deserved something.
It was just the deftest of touches that set.
He
not
wasn't even
even
looking, I
through.
don't think.
I've seen the
either.
goal 3 times, and the last time I watched it, I still thought he was going to put it in the box.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
just, oh no.
He seems to play that pass before the actual assist, if you get me.
Yeah.
He's always
And
one
that
step
makes the
ahead of
difference.
everybody.
He
isn't
creates the chances. He doesn't necessarily get the assists.
Yeah.
Because City is such a well-oiled machine where they're literally just cutting it back to other players to tap in.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about FIFA, which we'd be really unhappy if someone scored a goal against us like that. But if it's really good build-up play, it's a really good
And a
goal.
lot of time these players are completely unmarked in the box, so it's showing just how many players they do flood into the box.
I want to know what's changed over the summer, because all of these City players now have a hunger and desire to get in the box and score that they didn't have last season.
And Fernandinho, turns out he's got feet. And he can use them. He banged that so far in the top bins, it wasn't even funny.
Yeah.
Butland actually got a hand to it, and it was still too far in the corner for him.
I'm pretty sure it was a bad week for the English keepers altogether. I believe Butler now has conceded the most goals, 18.
Oh, is that
18
true?
Goal. I mean, obviously Man City are a lot towards that.
Yeah.
He was probably not even on the list before he played them.
Yeah,
But
Butler's sort of better keeper than Joe Hart, but Joe Hart somehow, I mean, we're not really going to talk about it. He headbutted one of the Burnley players' feet and didn't give away a penalty. It was disgusting.
But Kevin De Bruyne basically. If those 2 assists as well were both incredible assists.
Yeah.
Literally, he was on the right wing and he just crosses it over in between about 3 players onto a player on the 6-yard box, and they just tap it in. It's just unreal.
He tackled the player in midfield, drove the ball forward, just looked up and went, "Oh, I'm just going to hit this in my stride," and just came
and
directly.
the fact that he can
Jesus.
score goals from range as well, like the one he did against Chelsea.
With his left foot.
Yeah, it shows you people.
His only goal of the season, and it was a screamer with his left foot.
People often question whether, to go back to Arsenal, whether Ozil is world class. He doesn't have that threat outside of the box. He's sort of a one-trick pony in a sense, in that he always plays the pass, and you can defend that.
Neither does David Silva, though. And David Silva's probably in the top 5 players in the league.
I'm going to break out my inner Michael Owen with this commentary, but I like players with 2 feet. But he can.
You like a lot of players then, Ben.
They're all good. No, but he can use them, and I'm digging myself a grave here. He can genuinely use both of them as if they're both his strong foot, and every now and again I will question whether he's actually right-footed or left-footed, because he will just do something stupid with the other one, and especially that goal with against Chelsea with his left foot where he drove it across the goalkeeper's body. Oh, it was a fantastic goal.
So talking about starting 11s with City and how strong their team is, you've still got one of their record signings. Well, not their record signing, because I think Edison's probably up there. He was the most expensive signing of last season. But another really expensive signing is Bernardo Silva, who was on the bench. I don't think
that's true, because he was only 35 million, and he's the most expensive goalkeeper ever.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, but Kyle Walker, Benjamin Mendy,
they were all
Bernardo
50 million.
Silva.
Bernardo Silva was like 47 million. Yeah, okay. So they were another player that they spent a lot of money on is Bernardo Silva, and he was quality for Monaco last season. He is a class player. Do you think he's getting a look in this season?
I mean, he scored, didn't he?
He did.
He scored a goal.
Yeah.
I find it hard.
Where would he fit in?
The problem is he doesn't. Man City have got so many players at that kind of position that he's playing on the right at the moment. I don't think he is a right midfielder. But the problem is that personally I think that they've got an overwealth of talent in that midfield, and that means that no matter how many injuries...
They've always had that, though, and they've always kept on buying midfielders.
I mean, Yaya Toure is still there, apparently. I don't know. I haven't seen him in about 4 years, but...
I think David Silva's even had to drop back to central midfield with Fernandinho, and it's worked wonders.
Did you see how deep De Bruyne was playing before that Sterling goal? He took the ball off the goalkeeper. He drove a little bit forward and passed it, and the next thing you know, he's on the edge of the box, dummying literally everyone in the country before passing it to Sané. I can't sing his praises enough. But the problem is with Bernardo Silva is that he's not Premier League proven. The only way he can get Premier League proven is to play Premier League minutes, and he's not going to do that in that Man City team.
He's in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I can see him.
He's still a fantastic player.
I can see him playing cup games because obviously starting wingers Leroy Sané and Raheem Sterling, to me, they're on the score. They're on the starting 11 because they are the best wingers in Man City. But I would like to see Bernardo Silva have a chance at City, similar to like the Mkhitaryan situation where he wasn't getting enough minutes, and then eventually when he does get a lot of minutes, he will become one of the best in the league. If that makes sense. Not saying that Mkhitaryan is one of the best in the league, but you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I do.
But some quotes for you guys and some statistics. Gabriel Jesus is now on 6 goals, same as Sergio Aguero, despite Aguero being injured. Just 1 less than Lukaku. So he's joined second in the Golden Boot table at the moment, as well as De Bruyne moving up to 5 assists with the 2 that added yesterday.
Deservedly as well.
Deservedly so, but
I think he's equal on assists with Messi since 2012, I believe. I think that's correct.
I think he has like 32 assists since joining the league, which is one of the highest in the.
It is the highest.
Yeah. But I've never seen a manager so upbeat after getting thrashed 7-2 either than Mark Hughes' interview with BBC yesterday.
It's because he already knows he's got the Wales job. That's why.
Oh god.
Did you see how happy he was?
Yeah, but Mark Hughes joins a team, and when he leaves them, they're better off in the table. But when I say better off in the table, this is quite usually maybe 1 place or 2 higher. So a 7-2.
I've done my job.
He'll take that. He'll take that any day, especially how they're beating teams as well.
Yeah, I mean,
God forbid he ever takes hold of a championship team who's in the top 3 and they take him up to he takes them up to the Premier League. So I've done my job.
Apply the formula.
It's kind of funny to me because like Mark Hughes fully I think is a better manager than most people believe, but he doesn't really have much to show for it because he bombed.
Maybe the philosophy as well.
He bombed out at Man City. I mean, people forget he was the Man City manager once upon a time.
Did he sign Robinho when he was with them?
Yes, I think he did.
He did. He signed Robinho. He signed.
Although even Robinho, I thought he signed for Chelsea.
Yeah.
In that press conference.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah.
But Danny Murphy on Match of the Day making a bold claim that Gabriel Jesus is the best young player since Messi.
Oh, seriously.
Well, I mean, he's wrong, but okay.
He seems to make these bold claims.
This claim was immediately met by Gary Lineker saying Kylian Mbappe, and he was like, no. So
don't ask him about that.
I'm not having that because I think Ousmane Dembele and Mbappe are both better than Gabriel Jesus, and I'm a bit of a fan.
But after the season, I can't picture many holding Gabriel Jesus in the same regard as Ousmane Dembele and Kylian Mbappe if he continues his form.
I mean, yeah, and if you were going to make an 11 of best, young players, probably what was he under 23, he'd probably be in it. But I think someone like Kimmich, who is playing, he's a starter for Bayern Munich now. He's young and he's a fantastic player.
He is, yeah.
And he's the kind of Lahm style player who, Lahm for most of his career went completely unnoticed because he was a centre mid, then dropped into right back, and it wasn't until he got to right back people really started appreciating him. I think it's the same is going to happen for Kimmich, and he's only 21. So.
Well, Gabriel Jesus is only 20, so a lot can happen in a year.
I hope that I'm wrong because I think that he's a fantastic player. and could break the transfer record one day.
To be fair, he is a name that not many people talk about when they say like the best young talent in the world, especially.
Well, it's because the best young talent tend to be the best standout talent in the team, and he isn't the best standout talent in that team.
It's so hard for him to be. So.
Oh yeah, I'm not expecting.
But do you think he would do as well without the players around him?
No, well, you can't say that because. Ozil,
I'm saying,
for example.
Is his individual ability better than the likes of Ousmane Dembele and Kylian Mbappe, or is he just in a really good side?
It's probably a bit of both, but then for a striker or a goal scorer at least, it's almost all of it. It's about confidence, and he will get all the confidence in the world because he'll get the ball on a plate for him every day of the week.
But should we consider Man City as sort of a platform for him? Is that not where he wants to be?
Depends what City achieve under Pep. If they go on to win the league and the Champions League and stuff like that, because there hasn't been a team in the last couple of seasons that have really cemented themselves as the best team in England. It seems that a lot of teams tend to have one good season and everyone's like, they're amazing, they're going to do well in Europe, and then come next season, they're not going to do so. They don't do so well. It's kind of a point that I wanted to make earlier about Palace and Chelsea. Is it the curse of the reigning champion in the Premier League? Because you've got Chelsea sitting in 5th now, which many say is a disappointing start to the season for Chelsea. But you had Leicester before that, and Chelsea again before Leicester. So I think it's hard for an English team to cement themselves as the best team in the league, because not one team has done that in a while, like for over a number of years. Perhaps since the old City or the old Chelsea or the likes of United or something.
I mean, the season that Chelsea won the Premier League and then crashed out, it was Mourinho's fault. The season after, I should say. And I don't think Man United will win the league this year, but he's got a habit of every season going and stabilising the club in the first season, winning the league in the second, and then leaving in the third because they do poorly. And Leicester had unsustainable momentum going into after winning the league. They're not gonna do anything. They ended up flirting with relegation, but I never thought they were gonna get relegated. So over the 2 years, where the argument's kind of based off with the curse of the reigning champions, I think they're both outliers, aren't they? There isn't precedence going back 20 years of this happening.
But talking about Mourinho and his philosophy of a 3-season model, like that you talked about, there's claims now coming out in the paper that he could leave United for PSG.
I don't know why he would.
Well, he said in an interview with, I think it was an Italian or a French outlet, that he won't retire at United.
I saw that, yeah.
And he does aspire for other things outside of United. But he did say that there's something special happening in Paris because his son travelled to Paris to watch a game and not Manchester.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So I think that's definitely on the cards for him.
I think PSG would be really dumb to let Unai Emery go, who I think is a fantastic coach. The only thing he hasn't had is a big team to platform off of.
These reports contradict the ones of a couple of weeks ago where Mourinho said that he would like to stay at the club for 15 plus years.
It's just
I'm not sure what's going on.
He has a way
there.
of words, doesn't he?
He has
I would take it all
it's
as a pinch of salt.
It's totally to do with the agents. He wants to get a new contract. He wants to get a pay rise, so he's obviously.
I just couldn't see Paris taking him just for the sense of that element of negative football that he does play. I mean,
if
the players they have, would they want that?
If United were in a down spot, or say like they were in the 3rd season of his model and they were underperforming compared to previous performances, then I'd say, yeah, sure, Mourinho, you can go to PSG, whatever, I don't mind.
Yeah.
But I think that he's finally starting to build something at United, and I think that these reports are purely just for contract negotiations.
Well, I guess he knows how to get us talking about him.
I guess.
Yeah.
We've taken the bait fully. Yeah.
Not just us, everyone in the footballing
everyone's
world.
talking about it, isn't they?
So this leads us into another topic. Speaking of United, considering their 0-0 draw against Liverpool, has Jurgen Klopp flopped at Liverpool? I mean, Liverpool are currently sitting in 8th place. They finished 4th last season, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, they finished 4th last season. But have they underachieved? Should Liverpool aspire for better? Is Jurgen Klopp the right man for them? Or is this stubbornness getting in the way of Liverpool's potential?
I think part of it is stubbornness. We've talked about it in the show before that he is probably one of the most stubborn managers, and if someone in the press, says that his selection wasn't good enough, he'll keep selecting them until it is good enough. And then just for the "I told you so" kind of factor. I think a lot of Liverpool fans had a lot of high expectations, and he probably had high expectations of himself going into this job, because he had taken a lot of time off after he left Dortmund. But Dortmund, that the year he left or resigned, got sacked, whatever happened, they were playing really poorly. They had really poor football. People had found out how to play against Jurgen pressing in Germany, and I think what's happened is that people have gone into Jurgen Klopp's reign already and seen what those teams did and play against it. Now he's got to change his style up. No, he's not playing exactly the same way he did at Dortmund in 2014 or 2012, I should say. But I just think, honestly, that there's a strong contingent in Liverpool's fan base that he should leave already. That if he wants to get the best out of his career, his potential, because I think he's a fantastic manager, he should leave Liverpool.
I think a lot of what they say is, I think you can still argue that isn't his team. He's had 2 seasons, don't get me wrong, that seems to be the basis they give a manager now, especially sort of in the press, to build your own team. There's a lot of players in there.
Is it January 2016 he joined Liverpool?
I
think it was just after a transfer window.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah,
but he's had
probably February.
Arguably, he has had long enough to build his side. But I mean, you speak to any Liverpool fans, I mean, they'll scream defenders, and they definitely haven't invested there at all.
I see so many Liverpool fans
John
just say
has been a great, a great signing for them.
And Van Dijk would have been. I mean,
but I don't think Van Dijk would have solved.
No, not at
all
all.
Of their
He's similar to
worries.
Arsenal. They need a number of players.
The numbers that were flying about for Virgil van Dijk as well, I don't think he would have been a good signing. I think he would have been a great player to have in a squad, but for 70 million, would you?
I think he's the best ball-playing centre-back in the world, or at least he was when we were looking at him. He hasn't played in a couple of months
Van
now.
Dijk?
Yeah.
Best ball-playing centre-back in the world.
We heard it here first. But, I mean, him and... I mean, John Stones has played well this year, and he is a midfielder playing centre-back. I've always thought that. And then probably Alderweireld are his only 2 competitors, because there aren't too many centre-backs. He is almost one of a kind in a way, because he's an attacking centre-back. He will take the ball, he'll pass it into midfield, and then overlap the midfield and be in the box in 2 seconds. You know, he's very quick, very athletic. So I do think that he is very good at his job.
But going back to the whole Jurgen Klopp being the manager of Liverpool, obviously. But do you think that Liverpool fans should have set their sights for something brighter? Because granted, Jurgen Klopp was great at Dortmund, and what he built at Dortmund was, quite frankly, remarkable.
Oh, yeah.
But other than maybe in the 2012-2013 season or 2013-2014 season, Dortmund were not hands down the best team in Germany.
Well, it's because they had Bayern Munich, who, I mean, they're not going to get dethroned anytime soon.
But I mean, Borussia Dortmund have seemed to always do quite poorly in European competitions as well.
Well, they got to the Champions League final, the Dortmund.
That's the season I was on about. Like
Lewandowski,
towards the end of Lewandowski being at Dortmund. But don't you think Liverpool fans should be setting their sights for the likes of Ancelotti, for the likes of Jose Mourinho, for the likes of, I don't know,
Ancelotti would be a good appointment,
Pep Guardiola, but or do you think they should adjust themselves to, okay, we'll be a great club that clinches 4th or 3rd every season, but we'll play great football and a lot of people respect us? Or do you think Liverpool's legacy deserves more than that?
I don't think so. I don't think it does. I mean, look at the past managers they had before Klopp. I mean, Brendan Rodgers, that wasn't really a title grabber.
I mean, like the days of Rafa Benitez and the days of making Champions League finals like 2 times in 3 years.
Yeah, it's definitely
and stuff
over.
Like that.
And like I said to you before, because of that Brendan Rodgers season they had, because of the 3 up front, mainly because of that, I think they had a taste of what it was like, and that's what they demand from a manager now. Yeah, just Suarez.
But the key to Dortmund's success, though, was their recruitment. Now, yes, they let Goetze go, they let Lewandowski go on a free.
But they've kept that going without Klopp. Because they signed Ousmane Dembele for what, like 17 million or something
but
like
that's
that?
because they've got a director of football, they've got a proper system. Now, in England, directors of footballs are not as widespread. I can't think off the top of my head any of them who have. But you look at the big successful clubs who maybe aren't spending a lot of money. You're talking about Roma, Sevilla, Napoli, Dortmund. They've all got directors of football, and they're all really good at their jobs. Now, that's what Liverpool need. If they want to, utilise Klopp's ability, they need to bring in a director of football who knows what he's doing.
You want to bring in someone that will establish Liverpool as a great football club despite the manager, which is what a lot of big teams have been doing.
In England, that's what you expect to happen. You expect to have.
Well, it's happened with a lot of the big clubs around the world, like the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich. You keep interchanging managers, but they still perform.
Yeah, but the way I see it is that
like if you had that in England, a lot of people would be saying that, oh, this is just disrupting the system of the clubs. Like
when you go down to the bare bones of it, a manager's job is the what's their role on the pitch. What goes on that pitch. Do you think that a manager is getting the best out of his players when all through January and all through the summer, all he's thinking about is getting another new players?
But you've got like the likes of Naby Keita and that coming in for Liverpool next season.
That's great business.
That's good business, but I mean, surely they would have wanted him now.
Yeah, they would have, and they would have wanted Van Dijk now.
I haven't been following the Bundesliga that much. Can anyone tell me if Naby Keita's been good for?
Naby Keita's exceptional. He is a very good player.
He's been good this season, though.
And he only joined a year ago. Before that, he was playing at Salzburg.
Obviously he had a good season last season, but I'm talking about in the first couple of games of this season. Has he been up to the same standard?
Oh, yeah. No, I think he has. He's played very well. And he's a fantastic player. There was talk that, he's trying to sabotage something so he can move into Liverpool in January because there was a training ground bust up, but that was blown out of proportion. But Naby Keita's a great player, and I think that Liverpool...
Where will he fit in Liverpool's midfield, though? Because that's already a chock-a-block midfield. I think he'll walk straight back into it, but
he will walk into it with Chan playing
because you've got the likes of Lallana and then
Coutinho in.
And Klopp's not going to bench Henderson. He's the captain.
Well, I think he should, because I don't think Henderson's very good player.
I think he should be benched as well, but I think you either sacrifice Emre Can, who I rate really highly. I think Emre Can's a great player. Lallana, Wijnaldum, or Henderson to sacrifice for Naby Keita.
But Emre Can's been heavily linked to Juventus, and there was talk that a £40 million bid was turned down on the transfer deadline day.
Yes,
and they're still in for him, allegedly. So, maybe it's a like for like, and I think Naby Keita would do a job slightly better. I mean, he's a very, very Jurgen Klopp kind of player. If he went into that Jurgen Klopp team in 2012 when they got to the Champions League,
Emre Can seems to be the only player that holds down Liverpool's midfield. Because you've got Lallana, Henderson plays quite a holding role, but he does get forward quite a lot as well.
Yeah, they've got creativity in abundance.
Wijnaldum's not going to hold a midfield. He's not going to be like a Nemanja Matic or a Fernandinho or someone like that. So I think bringing in another ball-playing midfielder who's got great dribbling, got great passing and stuff like that, I don't think that's necessarily what they need.
I would, and I hate...
Don't get me wrong, Naby Keita's a great signing, and I think he'll walk into Liverpool's squad and make them a better team. But if they offload Emre Can because they bought Naby Keita, I think that's really poor.
I hate comparing players to Kante because I think that literally everyone does that at the moment. But that's the best player I can compare Keita to players who haven't seen him play. He wins balls, he drives the ball forward, he beats players, which is slightly less.
And he fights his teammates.
and fights his teammates, yeah, because we all know that Kante's got his hot head underneath that small exterior that drives a smart car. But he also, I think he led the Bundesliga in interceptions and is doing it again this season. He picks up the ball and drives it forward. Actually, I'll contradict myself. The best player I can compare him to is Moussa Dembele of Spurs, and I think he's the most underrated player in the Premier League.
Oh, Moussa Dembele. I thought you said Moussa Sissoko, then I was like, hang on, what?
If I said Sissoko, I didn't mean to.
I thought you were going
Dembele. Moussa Dembele.
It didn't click in my head.
Definitely
Dembele. I do highly rate Moussa Dembele as well. But talking about best players and underrated players, we will go into our next topic, which is the best player outside the top six.
Oh,
and
this
who
one
they
has
should
been
go to.
debating
This is
so
going to be a
much.
great debate.
We've been really, really looking forward to this one. Since I pitched as a topic, all we've been doing about is trying to keep our picks from each other. It's been great.
We
Mine
nearly
was
did it as
guessed.
well, but we confessed this morning. After
Just in case
some
we
of us,
Just in
just
case
some
in
of
case we
us
didn't have the
guessed
same
each other's
player.
players. But
As it turned out, we had 3 different players.
Yeah,
3 very
yeah.
different players.
Yeah.
which is good because I thought someone else was going to have my player, and you told me this morning that you're really good that you don't have my player, which I'm very happy about.
I think we all drew up little shortlists, and we all had each other's players on the shortlist, but number 1 was different. Anyway, I'll start since I'm talking about Kante-like players. I think it's Idrissa Gueye. Now, we talk about top 6. Everton wouldn't be a top 6 team even if they were doing well, because they're
The only reason I didn't include any Everton players is because of their form so far this season. Otherwise, I could have picked up like
Schneiderlin potentially.
Seamus Coleman potentially as well.
I wonder what's wrong with him. That's
Well.
become a bit of a meme, isn't it, on the show? I wonder what's happened to Seamus Coleman. No, let's ask Neil Taylor. Anyway, Idrissa Gueye, the season that he was playing for Aston Villa, and bear in mind, it's Aston Villa. They were awful that season under Remy Gard. He had the second most number of interceptions, the second most number of tackles. Every stat that we were looking at Kante, he had the second most of. And then he moved to Everton for, I think it was under 20 million. I'm almost certain it was. Where Arsenal, admittedly recently, I think it was recently, Arsene Wenger said that he looked at Kante twice when he was going to Leicester and when he was going to Chelsea.
He did.
He would have been the perfect player. If you didn't get Kante, you should have got Idrissa Gueye, and instead you got Xhaka.
Well, before the season, when I looked at the season preview and I actually saw the stats of Gueye, I thought, like, if he has another good season, there is no reason why we shouldn't try and
I think you could sign him in January the way they're going.
Yeah, but he's not really the traditional player that we'd normally sign. So.
I mean, you've got great bargaining power at the moment with Everton players. They've brought in a lot of names. I'm sure they'd be keen to offload some, even though Idrissa Gueye is easily
their best
one
player.
their best player.
No, I think that if he was to go anywhere, it would be Arsenal. That would be his best fit.
That's what I was going to establish. So you think Idrissa Gueye should go to Arsenal?
Yes, but I think he's the best player outside the top 6. That's the point I'm getting from this.
Okay.
Okay. Honourable mentions. Who made the shortlist?
For me, I looked at.
And who did you think that they should have gone to?
I tried to not go for like obvious names.
Yeah.
Van Dijk to Liverpool is the one that everyone thought of. Jack Butland, I know we already mentioned that he's conceded the most goals out of England goalkeepers, but he is a solid player and he's also still young. He should go to Liverpool. Liverpool still need a goalkeeper. Simon Mignolet is number 1. You've got a problem, and how he hasn't gotten that. Anyway, I think you guys need to talk about yours now. I'm running out of words.
Yeah. So sticking on Bev's topic of goalkeepers and Liverpool, funnily enough, my pick is going to be signing for Liverpool, and it is Kasper Schmeichel.
I stole your thunder. I apologise.
You did, yeah.
But go for it.
Well, no, it's no secret that Liverpool have had a sort of crisis with goalkeepers in recent seasons. No one's come in and cemented themselves as a solid number 1 pick out, like, since Pepe Reina's left to go to Napoli, even though he was quite poor in his last season. But anyway, Simon Mignolet is the worst goalkeeper in the top 6. I think Karius, he's a bit nervous. I can see he did play quite well in Germany before he came to Liverpool, but since joining Liverpool, I don't think he's been...
Sort of got the De Gea shakes that first season, but he's choosing Mignolet regardless.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Kasper Schmeichel is the best player outside the top 6 because he is such a good goalkeeper. I think he's been at the mercy of a really, really poor Leicester defence, which hasn't done him any justice whatsoever. If you've got Robert Huth and Wes Morgan as your centre-backs holding it down in front of you, you're going to concede a few goals.
I'm inclined to agree. I when we talked about it before the show, I was like, I wish I had, not bottled it and actually chosen him. But I will stick with Idrissa Gueye. He's a fantastic player.
Yeah, Kasper Schmeichel, I think he's a quality player, and he deserves better. I know he's 30 at the moment, so he's not...
For a goalkeeper, that's 6 more years, for sure.
Yeah, I think goalkeepers, a lot of Premier League goalkeepers especially, have hit their run of form early into the 30s, going into mid-30s.
How great would it be if he went to United, though? Even as a second goalkeeper to De Gea.
It would be a great story, but I mean,
Wait,
Sergio Romero, he's like 30 and he does a job.
He's probably the best number 2 in the world, isn't he?
Sergio Romero,
Yeah.
in the best in the league for sure.
Mm.
I'd argue that. But yeah, Kasper Schmeichel, he should go to Liverpool because Liverpool really need a goalkeeper, and Kasper Schmeichel is a quality goalkeeper, and I think that he single-handedly carries Leicester's side at some points. Sometimes, honourable mentions for me were Xherdan Shaqiri. I think he's a really good player outside the top 6. I thought he would do a job at Arsenal as well, because there is that space that needs to be filled on the right wing when you don't use 3 at the back. I think if you start Sanchez on the left, Xherdan Shaqiri on the right, Lacazette up top, and Ozil behind them, that could work.
I'd say Spurs for Shaqiri.
Yeah, that's a good shout as well.
They need a backup winger.
A close second for me in terms of the best player outside the top 6 was Mamadou Sakho from Crystal Palace.
Oh, another good one.
Another good one, yeah. I think he's a quality defender. He's been great for Crystal Palace since joining them on loan last season. Obviously, he's moved permanently now from Liverpool.
Isn't it kind of ironic that the best place for him to go would be Liverpool?
That's what I've got down. I think Liverpool, obviously, defensively, they need a big sweep of the defenders and the goalkeepers, because that's the only, like we said, worst defence, worst goalkeeper in the top 6. I think Mamadou Sakho could walk in there from a really good partnership with Joe Matip. I think that would be a really formidable partnership.
They're very similar players, aren't they?
He's one of those defenders who's definitely got an error in him. I just don't think that's what Liverpool
Mamadou
need.
Sakho.
Yeah. Did you see what he tried to do yesterday?
But he's been solid for Crystal Palace, though.
Yeah.
Last season and the beginning of this season, I think, well, even though Crystal Palace have been quite poor, I do think Mamadou Sakho is the best player in. I mean, he's sort of Crystal Palace's
kind of defender 11. That we sign. I think we seem to ask if they have it. Do they perform a lot of errors? And if it's a yes, then we go, yeah, we'll have them.
Anyway, before we move on to Liam's, another one was Tadic from Southampton. I think he's a good player, and obviously Virgil van Dijk, obviously going to Liverpool, because a lot of defensive players and goalkeepers, they should go to Liverpool.
Tadic should go to.
He was linked to Tottenham before, I believe, when he was.
I think he was, my thought was Tottenham as well.
I want to say Tottenham, but I think Christian Eriksen, no one's moving him from his place in the starting 11.
True.
That's a tough one. I wouldn't say he would move to anyone in the top 6, because a lot of the top 6 do have quality attacking midfielders in their side.
Yeah.
Maybe Arsenal if they change up their system. Spurs would be good if they didn't have Eriksen. So I'd honestly say that he'd have to move outside of the Premier League then in that case. I think he could go into like Napoli or into Milan, do a job.
I think he's a quality player, and he could do a job in like a Europa League team, maybe a low-level Champions League team. But I don't see why Tadic is still at Spurs. Still at Southampton, because he didn't have a great season last year, but the season before he was on a madness. He really was.
Yeah, he's caused United plenty of problems over the years. Even if he went to like Nice or Monaco or something like that in France, I think
Nice is a good shout.
I think he'd do a similar like Ben Arfa effect where.
I was going to say Ben Arfa.
He is obviously a better player than Ben Arfa was in the Premier League, but I think if he goes to a squad in France, he could definitely become one of the best midfielders in France. But anyway, Liam
needs to do
your pick.
Well, my two fellow hosts said their top 6 player with confidence, was the best player outside the top 6. I can't say that with mine, but in all fairness, Bev did break the golden rule. I think I clarified with them too whether it should be on form or generally, and Bev did quote some stats, from last season for his player.
Oh, so, apologies.
Yeah.
Actually, they were 2 years old.
I said, I'm sort of contradicting myself as well, because based on form, Kasper Schmeichel's been poor in recent seasons, and that's the reason why I didn't choose Everton, but I do think.
The question's ambiguous, and that's why the audience needs to answer it.
Yeah.
Hit them with it, Liam. Who's your best player?
Drop the purely on form before anyone starts venting their anger. Of course, he did some damage against us on the weekend, and that's Richarlison for Watford. Already. He's got the 4th highest amount of shots, whether that means anything. But he's got 3 goals and an assist, and he just looks like he's going to score goals at the moment.
He's definitely. I think he even said himself, didn't he, that Watford isn't the club he's going to stay at for a long time. He looks at it as a stepping stone, and rightly he should. I wouldn't wish staying at
definitely
Tottenham
see
for their
him.
entire career. Not Tottenham, Watford.
I can see him going to Tottenham.
Not on anyone. But Tottenham would be. I don't know who you've got down for who he should go to. But Tottenham for me would be the perfect place for him to go because he'd come on, he'd do a job. I think Iheanacho should have gone to Spurs, but he'd come on, he'd do a job. Harry Kane can't play every game because he's scoring a ludicrous amount of goals every single game.
That's what you think.
Kane watch. We got a Kane watch segment after this actually,
yeah.
so I won't go too much.
And
into
Kane
it.
has 2 legs, which means Bev is all.
Kane does have
I love those players with 2 legs, mate. That's why Sol Bamba's so good.
But yeah, purely on form, he's definitely looking like the best. I mean, outside of the top 6, if you stats wise, it's so tight down there. So it was a hard choice to make. But after seeing him on the weekend, I thought
it does make sense to choose a Watford player, given that they're in 4th
yeah.
place.
I mean, Decor as well is looking really good. But
Troy Deeney.
I mean, way to kill the mood.
Nathaniel Chalobah though, he's played very well this season. I've been impressed with him.
But yeah, I might throw a really randy honourable mention out there as
Please
well.
Go on.
I think he's playing at the wrong team. But Jay Rodriguez as well, a big fan. I'm a big fan.
He's at West Brom now, isn't he?
West Brom. In that Southampton team, did damage.
Yeah.
That injury killed his career. He could have gone so far.
I mean, West Brom's not the team for him to achieve that. So
I saw this being debated on Twitter, and someone had the nerve to strike Jermaine Defoe at Bournemouth. And I don't know who you are.
Cue the Liam Neeson.
But Liam Neeson is a personal friend of mine. You, sir, do not know what football is. I'm bottling that. I'm bottling the threat.
Another name I'd like to throw in terms of the best players outside the top 6 is another Southampton starting Oriol Romeu. I think he's a great player.
Good shout.
Yeah,
good shout.
I thought you were going to cue that's a good stat after that.
No. It wasn't a stat. No, I think there's a lot of good players outside the top 6 in the Premier League for a first time in a while. We've seen some appalling teams in the Premier League over the years. Blackpool, cough.
Sunderland, cough.
Never forget
Derby.
Yeah.
But then
12 points.
11, I think.
Oh.
That was many a year ago now, though.
Yeah.
That was way before.
Like 10 seasons. There's literally 10 seasons ago, actually. That's
2007.
No.
Wow.
I said that thinking it was a recent season.
No,
that's how far.
No.
Blimey.
I do remember Derby in the Premier League, though. Big up Robbie Savage.
Yep. Yeah, go on, Rev.
What a savage. But anyway, moving on to Kane Watch, which is becoming a meme, and I think should stay very, very much in this show.
It's everyone's favourite part of the show.
It's everyone's favourite part of the show, apart from Liam's. It's my favourite part of the show. For those who don't know, go back and watch the other episodes. We've accidentally, for the first couple episodes, just ended up talking about Harry Kane for a solid 10 minutes.
We'll get a Kane count.
We should.
Once we broaden our staff.
we get the intern to do that. And then, so out of nowhere, I intentionally, on the 3rd episode, was like, oh, by the way, we haven't mentioned Harry Kane yet, so we're going to keep that as a show, and purely just to talk about what is the worst transfer rumour ever. I challenge you to tell me another one. But this week, one of the Spanish newspapers said that Real Madrid were willing to offer Bale, Benzema, and Modric, all for Harry Kane. Now, he's good, but he's not that good.
You've got to say thoughts afterwards, where we come in.
Thoughts, ladies and gentlemen?
Right, here we go.
Gentlemen.
Get him.
Bale for Kane, I can see happening. In the that was also a rumour. Bale for Kane is a straight swap I saw as well, and I think that would be a good signing for both teams.
Any of them individually for Kane, yes, I could probably see happening.
No, I can't.
Maybe
see,
not.
I can't see. I was going to say I can't see.
You want a like for like.
Yeah, but all 3 of them. I say all 3 of them in this current market have got easily a market value of 500 million.
Well, combined.
Obviously not individually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
As a Welsh.
We're Welsh.
Yes.
Yes.
Gareth Bale will be the first player to ever become the most expensive player twice.
Joe Allen Ballon d'Or.
No. Well, they said they valued Messi at $1 billion, so Bale.
Well.
Yeah. They said
Benzema's brand new contract has a £1 billion buyout clause.
Well,
Benzema.
There'd be a queue
because in Spain, like, you have to have a buyout clause in every contract. It's a law.
And Griezmann's is only 100 million right now. So
okay, get on it, lads.
Edward Wood.
No wonder Catalonia want to leave. Oh God, no. But are there any worse transfer rumours out there? I mean,
apart from the countless Gaetan rumours to United, I've seen those.
I think he might be the most overrated player in the world, purely
Gaetan, yeah, he's been poor for Atletico.
Purely because everyone thinks he should join Man United, and based on nothing. Well, all the papers apparently. All the papers do.
I did see a good story. It comes up every year, obviously, with Messi moved to the Premier League, but there was a quality one I remember. I should have kept it, should have framed it, in fact. And it was a picture of Messi in training, by the Daily Mail, of course, scratching his head, and the headline went something along of, "Is this Messi deciding to join the Premier League?" Simply because and I read the article, and it largely was just based upon the fact that he was scratching his head in training. I mean,
realistically, all he was thinking was, how did they sign Andre Gomez as a replacement for Iniesta?
How did I avoid that prison sentence?
No, but Andre Gomez is the best left winger in La Liga, mate. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm triggered.
Is a
no
statement.
Joke. Started on the wing against Atletico Madrid, left wing. He's taken the Neymar role, lads.
I'm not often speechless. Well, I'm just going to gloss over that. But in fairness, the rumours that Messi was going to go to Chelsea a few years ago, based on the fact that he unfollowed Barcelona's official Instagram feed and then followed Eden Hazard, was one of my personal favourites.
Maybe he was changing nationality to Belgium, you know.
Well, I would.
It's not hard to do, is it?
Where do these rumours come from? You might want to now, after Argentina, the way that they played in the qualifiers, sort of carrying them on his back.
Yeah. Cue a meme. So that concludes this week's Kane Watch. We didn't really talk about him.
Yes.
But
yes. That might be the death of it.
So this is the part of the show where we bring in our good friend of Bowls News. He runs the Twitter behind Hereford's.
Some say he's the man who runs it all.
He runs Hereford Football Club.
Well,
he plays left back for no.
Bring a little bit away from the truth there, but yeah, carry on.
Right, this is James Thomas. James, please introduce yourself.
Well, what is there to say? I'm James. I support a non-league team, Hereford, ex-league club. I will emphasise that, but sadly not anymore.
Wait, I thought the only non-league teams were Salford and Billericay.
Oh, you had to bring out the...
I did.
Oh, it's just the ones that the media focus on. I'm not going to talk about them today. Well, I suppose Billericay are through to the first round of the Cup, but...
Thanks to... Was it Jermaine? Is Jermaine Pennant playing?
No.
I'm sure he is.
I don't know. I'd have to check
I'm gonna Google that.
Google it. I think he is one of their players. Whether he played on Saturday, I don't know.
Well, all I know is that Jimmy O'Hara is, and he assaulted a fan.
I think you're right.
Oh my
Jermaine
gosh,
Pennant,
he is.
latest big name to join Billericay Town, 7th of August 2017. There we go.
Anyway, look, so I wanted to bring you on, mostly because you're a good friend. You're a friend.
Don't be too nice. Don't be too nice.
But also because last week was non-league day, and I think that it was important. Grassroots football is it's grassroots, isn't it? It's the basis for all football to be based off of.
Yeah.
And I know nothing about it. I'm very ignorant towards it, so I wanted to get you on to talk about it. So what is the best thing about supporting a team like Hereford?
Oh, what? You start with a real difficult question. To be fair, it's what I'm used to. I mean, at the same time, why do you support Cardiff? It's because it's your local team, is it not?
Yeah.
But
no comment.
we'll ignore Liam there. But the atmosphere, you know everyone. It's
even the players.
Well, not the players. They're local. I mean,
we're playing centre mid.
Strikers Dave, you live next door to me.
But it's an interesting watch. I mean, you can go to different grounds and you got ice cream vans there, dogs watching the football. You couldn't go to the Emirates and pet a dog, could you? It's just not right.
Well, I'm sure there are some dogs that watch Arsenal play, and I'm not talking about the animals.
Wait. All right. Glossing over that. But, you... Sorry.
I agree with some of the biggest success stories are of non-league teams performing well. like the likes of Hereford's
Sutton.
getting quite far for them in the FA Cup. I think that's.
Well,
Sutton playing so well against Arsenal was obviously glossed over by Pygate, which was
yes, yeah.
a bit
the single
ridiculous.
best story to come out of football last season.
Oh dear.
But Lincoln as well played really, really well. I think they're in the Football League now, aren't they?
Oh God!
They
You
got
put me on the
promoted to
spot
League
there.
Two. I'm almost certain.
Yeah, I think they probably are back in the league now.
But-
But I mean, a few seasons ago there was Worcester City. They I can't remember which round they made it through. Probably the third round did they get to. They beat Coventry at the Rico, and they forced Scunthorpe to a replay in the next round. But now they're down to step 5, which is
For those who don't
9
know, what does that
steps?
mean?
That's 9 steps below the Premier League, I think.
Wow.
Purely financial reasons, but how a club can go from that to nothing in so long. It's the same as Hereford. What are we looking at? 7 seasons ago, they were playing Leeds at Ellen Road. They went bust and then went down to playing Alvechurch, who nobody has ever heard of. So
My mum's from Alf. No, no, I'm joking. But I mean,
I feel sorry for her.
yeah, I would. But these kind of local park football games, you just kind of see them, you walk past them, and you don't really think. But they actually mean a lot to these players in this community. Especially in a place like Hereford that doesn't have a professional team anymore. So for you, because you've been able to get involved with the media aspect and seen them at Wembley, if you could nail on one thing that you enjoy better than supporting a team in the Football League.
There's nothing really, because to a lot of Hereford fans, they are a league club. They're just not in the league. I know that sounds really stupid, but it's true. We play in a stadium that is of a Football League standard. We have ex-Football League players. I mean, Ryan Green, he remains one of the youngest players ever to play for Wales internationally. One of the 6, I think it is now, since Woodburn joined the group when he
What a
made
boy.
his debut. But it's been an interesting journey, going bust to reforming, totally new, starting from nothing, no players, no nothing, and
I'm sure a lot of people don't know about that. Could you give us a 30-second synopsis of that? Or
I'll try and remain fairly impartial.
please don't. It's funnier when
it
you
all
don't.
I'll follow up with a question about the finances with grassroots football. So
Right,
take it away,
yeah.
James.
It came from financial mismanagement, basically, and the club was sold to a fairly dodgy gentleman who had time in prison, and they got the club relegated down to step 3. Their plan was to rebuild and whatever else they spouted, but didn't pay the debts, and they got wound up effectively. So then, when a club goes bust, they have to reform 2 leagues below where they went bust. So that means we were down to
Similar thing happened to Rangers, if I'm correct.
yeah, Rangers are another club. Chester,
Wimbledon.
Wimbledon is slightly different.
Don't you mean MK Dons?
I meant AFC Wimbledon, but okay. No, no, I see what you mean. Yeah. So you've been lucky enough to see your team at Wembley.
As of you.
Well, thank you. I wasn't. There wasn't an offhanded comment. Like genuinely, congratulations. But that I think I was in the FA Vars, was it not?
Yes, which again is a competition that nobody has ever heard of.
No, it isn't. But the FA Cup actually means so much to non-league teams. Can you explain why that is?
Well, it's the greatest cup competition in the world. It's meant to be. But
In recent years, it hasn't been as much, but
At the top level, it hasn't.
no.
But maybe for these
last
teams.
last season was Arsenal against Chelsea in the final, and that's the first final that 2 big teams have come against each other in years.
True.
So I think the FA Cup's definitely on the comeback.
Fair enough.
Anyway, James.
again, like last season, you mentioned Sutton and Lincoln making it through to the 4th round. It's
It's great to watch.
great to see smaller clubs, lower league clubs doing well.
But don't sometimes, non-league clubs, because of the financial benefits, prioritise the cup over the league? Is that not?
It depends on the club, but everyone wants to do well in the club, in the cup even.
What's better in terms of financial returns for a non-league team doing well in an FA Cup or doing well in the league?
Obviously, that
I'd
probably
say the
depends
cup
on what
by
league.
far.
Yeah.
I mean, so far Hereford have played in 4 qualifying rounds of the FA Cup, I believe. They've made £27,500 from it, which to a bigger club is nothing, but it is quite a substantial amount of money when you think you have youth setups run off, to help bring these players through the system. I mean, you can't go without mentioning Jamie Vardy, really, can you? But
No.
I think he is the biggest story when it comes from rise to fame from the conference to winning the Premier League. I mean, you've got movies being made about him now, I think.
yeah.
I'm not sure if they're following through with those plans, but they were definitely being talked about. But yeah.
And then Sam Clucas, who has signed for Swansea over the summer, hasn't probably done quite as well as what you would have hoped. But £60 million, I think, was the rumoured fee. But he joined Hereford in the conference and then since went on to score in 5 consecutive leagues in 5 consecutive seasons, I think, which is a fairly decent record to
He's
have.
the first player to ever do it, is he not?
I believe so. Which,
Yeah.
when he joined Hereford, nobody rated him at all. Sam Clueless was his rather dodgy nickname, but it's true, and players have got to stick with it. It's hard to make it in football, but it does happen.
Wasn't Darren Randolph in Republic of Ireland goalkeeper another ex-Hereford player?
He was on loan with Hereford. He played about 14 games, I think, but he then refused to play in the FA Cup. Was fined 2 weeks' wages, I believe, and then returned to his parent club.
He refused to play because he didn't want to be cup tied.
No. He just refused to play.
Oh, okay.
Which is a bit different to being cup tied.
Okay, right, okay. I did not know that. That's interesting. Anyway.
So going back to the finances, you have strong opinions about there being a lack of finance in grassroots football, I'm sure. How do you think that the FA and other governing bodies can help promote investment in grassroots football to make sure that the next Jamie Vardy or the next Harry Kane does come throughout the ranks?
I don't have the figures to hand, but the Premier League do give so much to grassroots football every.
There was something
from
I
the
read
TVG.
about the TV licenses that people were proposing that a percentage of that would be trickled down into grassroots football. But how has that happened?
Yeah, it has happened, but it's not enough. When you think of all across the country, how many teams there are, how many youth sides there are, they need the money to buy the kit to maintain the pitches for these players to progress. It's hard when in the middle of winter you've got a pitch which is just a complete bog. Where are these players going to play to get noticed? I mean, we're talking, young players, 14, 15, who want to make their name in football, and if you don't have the facilities to play, how do you crack on and progress?
And of course, going on from that, obviously a lot of players in lower down leagues or in the world of grassroots football, they can't afford to have football as their full-time job. They've obviously got to have work outside of football to keep meeting means and stuff like that. And do you think that the financial backing from the FA should promote non-league footballers to take up the jobs full-time so that they can focus on increasing the quality of their football and progressing their careers?
I sort of agree with that, but I sort of don't. But clubs need to be somewhat self-sustainable. They can't rely on this money from the FA. You have the money that you get through people coming to watch the games, and you need to use that wisely. You can't rely on other money in case it stops. That's when people have financial problems, is when the backers pull out effectively. But it's an interesting point. And one I haven't actually really given much thought to.
Because I'm not fully informed about the financial situations with the players, but they are definitely not full-time for Hereford, are they?
Oh no, they're definitely not. I mean, there's very few full-time clubs below the conference. The only one I can think of is probably Kidderminster Harriers. They are full-time in the National League North as it is now. But it's the BBC's favourite thing when it comes to FA Cup coverage is, so-and-so is a part-time builder, this, that, the other. And yeah. They train twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday night usually. They enjoy it.
It's quirky, but it's actually not really relevant, is it?
It's not really. I mean, what difference does it make? What difference does it make if they're an accountant or a builder to what they're doing on the football pitch? They're still a player in their own right.
Yeah, and another point that I've heard you make in conversations a lot is that the number of rules and regulations up against non-league teams is so counterproductive. I think you mentioned before there was a couple of players who were foreign. They were managed to be taken as apprentices or students, but then they couldn't play this season because that kind of contract was not allowed past a certain step.
It's visas is what it comes down to. To play, if you have a student visa, which is what these two players had, you can't officially work because you don't have a work visa, and that's fine if you're playing for an amateur league, which is what Step 5 is. But then as soon as you get the promotion to Step 4, it's a semi-pro league, so you need permission to work effectively. That's what it comes down to. But there is a lot of rules that you have to abide by, like the same as any club. Player registrations is another thing. If a player's not registered, you will be, docked points. But one difference between the league and non-league is the fact that you can sign players throughout the season.
There's no transfer window.
The deadline is the 30th of March, so you can. That's the one big difference, really. But
yeah.
So looking forward, I know Hereford have recently been drawn against who?
Good question. AFC Telford United. So another non-league side.
That's actually a name I do know. I don't know why, but I do know them.
Yeah.
Give us a little preview as to
how's that going to pan out for yourselves?
Well, fingers crossed, it'll pan out fairly well. It's a winnable tie. As soon as the draw was made, everyone said, yeah, that's winnable. It's at home against Telford, who, despite being in the next league up, are only 12 league places above Hereford. And in the last round, we beat National League side Eastleigh at their place. So, that's a higher graded side than what we've got in the next round. So it is a winnable tie. But it all comes down to the football on the day, doesn't it? The two sides actually met in pre-season. It was a goalless draw. I mean, both sides were without key players. And again, what can you take from a pre-season game? It's winnable, though. So I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Anything can happen in the FA Cup,
The magic of the FA Cup.
Well,
yes,
I'm sure if Hereford do well, we'll get you back on the show to talk about the successes.
I hope so.
Hope so as well.
I'd like that. That'd be great.
That'd be good.
Or if you crash out in the next round, we'll have you on to complain about
I'll have
the
a lot to
part-time
complain
referee.
about. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you for that, James.
Yes,
it was a
it
great
was great.
insight as to grassroots football.
Thank you very
for
much.
Hey, thank you for having me. And
no problem. Have you got anything to plug?
well, if anyone wants to follow Bulls News blog on Twitter, go for it. It's a pretty decent Twitter, as I would say, but probably one of the most followed.
A great way to keep up with all things Hereford, especially in grassroots football. There's a steady stream of content, so if you do want to keep up in that world, then it's a great place to do so.
It is enjoyable, and you tweet about other teams as well, sometimes for your benefit, sometimes not so much. I'm sure you've got stories about that. But anyway, I think Liam's taking over for the next segment, is he not?
I am indeed. You've got nothing to tie into it. I mean, Arsenal winning something? What can you tie into that?
It's a football podcast. Football is football.
And actually obviously the listeners can't see it, but it actually says presenter next to my mic, You remember that for the next podcast?
Oh.
You've been warned.
It did once upon a time say it above mine. So I think you snuck that round whilst I wasn't looking.
No, but there's a documentary coming out, basically called 89 the film, not to be mistaken with some really bad thriller film. Yeah, don't go watching that. Named after the year when the mighty Arsenal, spoiler alert, we won the league. I mean, you're going to find out one way or the other.
Spoiler alert.
Which is known as the first division at the time. And the previous 7 seasons, Liverpool had either won the league or finished runners-up, and this is what the documentary is about, because the last game of the season, we had to play Liverpool, and we had to win by 2 clear goals, and as they say on it, this was the team to beat.
Well, around that time, certainly, Liverpool had a really
Liverpool.
good
to make matters worse, the match was actually delayed till after the FA Cup final, obviously because of the Hillsborough disaster, which was awful. So I'm guessing it was obviously a very sweaty match for the players, and that was before kick-off. I mean, being delayed till after the FA Cup,
there's a lot right.
You've got another final, essentially.
Definitely. That was Arsenal's cup final.
Yeah, and But yeah, it's going straight to DVD. It stars gunners greats such as Alan Smith, Lee Dixon, Tony Adams, and it's been released on November the 20th. Just thought I'd plug that for the Arsenal fans out there.
I'll give that a watch.
Yeah,
I think we should watch it
Looks
together
good.
and kind of give like a film review.
We'll give
Yeah,
a
if you do,
review of it.
actually.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that'll
looks
be
good,
a
looks
bonus
good.
episode.
Right, well that's almost everything we have time for, but as we started doing last week, we're going to finish on it again this week. The football funny, something light-hearted to end the show off. We've gone into a lot of interesting topics this week, but this one I'm hoping will be the best. So we've all heard about footballers doing or using underhanded tactics to win a game, or coaches even using excuses, and this is what this is about today. Venezuela finished bottom of their World Cup qualifying group. Again, they played at Paraguay. The manager of Venezuela, Ralph Dudamel, I don't think that's right, but that's what I'm going with. That's how it's said phonetically, at least. Said that his players resisted temptation. Why is that, you ask? Well, you're probably not asking that. Because he's claiming that the Paraguay FA sent prostitutes to their team hotel just so they could get the upper hand. As it happened, Venezuela did win 1-0 and did finish bottom of their group. So they resisted temptation and still ultimately came out losers. There we are.
Well done, Venezuela.
Anyway, shout out to Venezuela for resisting temptation, and that is the 4th episode of the In Off the Post podcast done and dusted. Thank you very much to James for joining me.
And thank you again.
You're welcome. Ross and Liam.
I've actually got
Here.
a quick question
Here
for the listeners. Sorry, I want to
Oh,
throw it out there.
no.
This will leave them bamboozled. You ready? Right, you ready for this? I just want to ask them what came first: Chelsea's kit or Bakayoko's? Is it his name? The centre,
Yeah.
or his haircut?
I don't know what that means.
If you see his haircut, if you saw the match,
I know his haircut is white.
Yeah, and their kit is white as well.
Oh.
An awful combination.
Oh, anyway, thank you for listening to this week's episode of the In Off the Post podcast. I've been Ross.
I've been Dan. Liam's been Liam. I'm not letting him speak after that.
Follow us all on Twitter at Dorse_.
At DanBevJourno. Follow the podcast as well at IOTP blog.
And at Liam is a journal before he writes me off.
James, do you want to plug your Twitter?
Oh, I'll go on then. You can also follow me at James Thomas here.
Where is
Where?
it?
Thanks for listening,
End the show.
everyone.
Thanks
See you
everyone.
next week.
Goodbye.